With the SDGs, I think we need to look back at the MDGs where HIV was a goal, a specific goal. In the SDGs, it has become a target lumped with all the other, diseases like malaria, TB, hepatitis, waterborne diseases, etc. So it has been, in a sense, deprioritized. You can look at it in terms of having had successes in the past, in terms of it being addressed in many countries, but I don't think we should be complacent, because in other countries the reverse is happening, where the cases are again starting to rise. And in this region, we need to look at it from the perspective of it being a key population driven epidemic, and so it requires a different set of interventions. And I think if we look at the SDGs, we cannot just rely on the health goal alone. We need to look at all the other goals that could serve our purpose in terms of addressing HIV. If you look at how UNAIDS has crafted its strategy, it used 5 of the goals. So there's the goal 3 on health, goal 5 on gender equality, goal 10 addressing inequalities, goal 16 looking at access to justice and peace, and goal 17, which is on partnerships. So these are sort of, the more direct correlations. If you're addressing, gender violence or gender inequality, if you're also addressing human rights issues, decriminalization, if you're addressing the issue of HIV being a multi-sectoral response, you can use all these other goals. And along with that, if you dig even further, for instance, goal 1, which is on poverty, because we do have to address issues of inequality, and poverty is a driver, and it can be a factor that can in fact make people much more vulnerable. So and also, for instance, the issue of employment and decent work, and you can also link that the issue of the goal of education. You can also link that to issues of young people, their access to comprehensive sexuality education, for example. So you can use some of the goals, but I think we also need to point out that the SDGs will not be the solution solely, or in a comprehensive way, because they don't discuss SOGI issues. They don't discuss sexual orientation and gender identity and expression. They're not in the SDGs. Sexual rights, they're not in the SDGs. So, we need to try and see how much we can use from the SDGs, but we shouldn't be limited into that framing alone. Well, I don't think we need to invent new answers or new response. We know what will solve the epidemic. The issue really here is political will and political leadership, because we know what will end AIDS, and so it's just I guess for us who've been in this work for quite some time, frustrating to see that we're not done. We're not really done with the activism and the struggle, and we need to look at it from that frame, that this is really a political struggle in that sense. We shouldn't be content with being able to be given funding to do this community-based testing and to do all this service delivery. It's not enough. You can only do so much, but if a new government comes in and says no to that, you're caught there and with nothing. So we have to really sustain the activism here. The other thing is, and I think this is the value of engaging in this platform like APRSM, where we need to really build solidarity with other social movements, because that's, in a way, we've been too privileged and siloed in our responses. And we have, and I'm not saying we didn't achieve anything, we did. It's, we've had really good achievements. But at the same time, we know that our work alone will not solve the issues. If you look at the issue of human rights and gender inequality, we need to do that in solidarity with other social movements. And so I think if we build that momentum together in solidarity, then, if other constituencies and groups and communities take our issue, then I think, we have a broader base for our activism. It's also important to take cognizance of the closing spaces for civil society. So we need to really be vigilant about protecting that space, whatever it is that's left, and insist on that space together, with us as a broad community, so that, even if it's going back to just making ourselves visible and making our voices heard, we need to sustain that. Otherwise, we'll really fall off, and governments will not care. I mean, I think that's the unfortunate reality now that we're facing. So, yeah, we have to sustain the activism.